Dear Jewel, I left you with a few things to always hold on to. Loyalty, elusiveness, and brute force.
Hello and welcome back to The Point. Sorry for the wait, I just needed some time to myself, time to think, to get my head straight, to try and figure things out. Life can be exhausting with emails and phone calls and Twitter and Donald fucking Trump. So every once in a while I just need to disconnect. You know the feeling, right? We play games for lots of reasons. For entertainment, for competition, to play with friends, to meet new ones, or just to pass the time. But why we play games has as much to do with personal preference as it has to do with personal circumstance. We often play games because of the realities of our lives. Chances are if you have kids, you don't play many MMOs. If you don't have a job, you probably play a smaller amount of games more frequently. And if your brain is tired after a long day's work, you might want to play something that lets your mind relax. Modern life can be tiresome. If it's not work, it's school, relationships, mortgages, updating your apps, taking out the trash. Life has the ability to become a never-ending list of responsibilities that pile on top of each other, one after the other. Every once in a while, we all just need to take a break. You walk the long way home, go for a drive, or look at something pretty for a while. Media also allows us the means to do this, to rid ourselves of the burdens of this mortal coil and explore new worlds via books, films, Netflix binge watches, and video games. So today I want to talk about those places we go to lose ourselves, not the games we play to win or to finish the story or to get better, the games we go to disconnect. When I get home from a hard day's work, I usually reach for a game that doesn't tax my brain too much. I used to be playing a few games against the AI in FIFA, but the past year, it's mostly been Rocket League, a game I can happily play a few matches of that helps me settle into my evening routine. What game is it for you? Perhaps it's Madden or Destiny. Maybe you pop into The Division for 30 minutes, or do a few laps in Forza. We all have our own crutches, and familiar games can help us relax after a hard day. But then there are games which, whether through design or happenstance, allow us to totally cut ourselves off from our world for hours on end. You've got straight up meditation em-ups like Journey, Dear Esther, and Abzu, but I'm talking more about those games that act like a sort of a digital walk in the woods, games that wrap us up in an environment and allow our brains the space to breathe. For all the time I spent closing hellgates, breaking into people's houses and selling drugs to cats, there was also plenty of downtime in Oblivion. There's no way of knowing for sure, but I bet I spent half my time in Tamriel just wandering the landscape. Paths ran like octopus tentacles from the Imperial City outward into forests, along streams and deep into mountains. Exploring these paths was incredibly pleasurable to my mood, being away from busy civilization and instead enveloped by beautiful nature with a soothing orchestra made ambling down beaten paths an addictive activity. Even exploring yet another Ayleid ruin with their damp, echoing chambers was more calming than creepy. Oblivion was a game packed with action, but like Skyrim after it, it was also a game where you could lose yourself on a solo walk. That level of immersion in nature felt as close to a calming amble among the pines as video games have ever gotten. But it's not the only game that allows for that sort of solo introspection. Red Dead Redemption is a game about being alone with the land. John Marston spent the majority of the game on his own, away from his family, trying to solve his problems. Like going on a drive to figure something out, Red Dead Redemption is Marston's journey to contemplate his issues, just stretched out over weeks of time and thousands of miles. And while the action in Red Dead is explosive and exciting, these moments of downtime, whether it's spent hunting, exploring, or simply getting from place to place, are just as powerful. So much of the game is spent trotting along dirt roads with little to look at or do. But the mood that these moments strike with big skies and vast rolling landscapes allow you to sit back and enjoy the moment, which is really something else considering just how boring this should all be on paper. It demonstrates so much of how our brain works, that we yearn for these moments of quiet solitude to relieve mental tension. If quiet solitude is good for our brains, then that explains why I find Fallout to be so therapeutic. Whatever your wasteland of choice, these landscapes, while containing pockets of activity, are mostly empty. In fact, even more than empty, they're filled with the ghosts of previous activity. Roads, homes, playgrounds, and industry that once was. Life here has been paused, allowing you to tiptoe in quiet contemplation. I'm no psychologist, but often when talking to friends about depression, long playthroughs of the Fallout games are cited as a coping mechanism. Whether it's the game's reward loop, the sympathetic mood it strikes, or the fact that you spend most of your time walking around on your own, Fallout is clearly a game which allows our brains an intermission to unknot itself. So many games allow us this sort of mental downtime, whether it be the quieter moments of your favorite RPG, playing around in create mode in Minecraft, or just wandering the world in Skate. There are many games that allow us the space to let our subconscious wander. So, while we're on the subject of space and allowing our subconscious to wander, you may remember the last few episodes of The Point were about hype, mystery, and how many people were setting high expectations over what No Man's Sky was setting itself out to be. Well, now that it's out, we know exactly what type of game this is, or at least I think I have a decent idea. No Man's Sky is the woods of Tamriel. It's the plains of Mexico. It's a lake in Minecraft, the capital wasteland, a downhill road in Skate. No Man's Sky is the quiet part of every game you've ever played, stretched out over an entire galaxy. It's a game that's played by your subconscious, a game with objectives so loose, it's crying out for you not to follow them, a narrative that's whispered in your ear instead of shoved down your throat, where conversations with aliens are brief, confused and hazy, like a half-awake dream. It's a space-traveling game that isn't focused on galactic politics or allegories of race, but instead plays with themes of motivation, life direction, and the purpose of faith. You spend practically all of your time in this game just wandering, floating from planet to planet, looking at vistas, viewing wildlife, listening to music, waiting 50 seconds to reach a planet. This is the most boring game I've ever played, and I can't stop playing it because, like so many of the places I've just talked about, it's so often what my brain needs. Simply put, No Man's Sky is a game about listening to yourself. And while No Man's Sky has loose goals and mechanics that plot some degree of progress, your direction in this game is heavily dictated not by what you're told to do, but what you want to do. This isn't some stripped-down version of Elite, a game that's crying out for more mechanics. It's a dreamlike choose-your-own-adventure book being played by your subconscious. What motivates you? Wealth? Connections with others? Forward momentum? Do you need the universe to be a happy accident or intelligently designed? Does faith make you stronger? And how long will you chase an answer before turning back? These are the questions that No Man's Sky is asking you at every step you take. And I'm not just talking metaphorically, these are choices that actually manifest as you progress on your journey. Yes, on the surface, the combat is very basic and there's an incredible amount of repetition, but there's something deeper happening here. While some games dabble with allowing you to be alone with your thoughts, this game is an exercise in solitary contemplation, one that's happening even if you're not totally aware of it. When we play video games, we're usually alone. Most games try and obfuscate this fact, but No Man's Sky is a game where this fact is inescapable. The universe, like our brains, is an infinite plane. So often it's bombarded with goals, responsibilities, relationships, problems to solve. We all need to take the long walk home every now and again, to stare at something beautiful, to enjoy an introspective walk in the woods. No Man's Sky is that walk in the woods, a game that holds a mirror up to the player and shows them who they really are. And much like the walk in the woods, by the time you've stepped away from this universe and returned to normal life, hopefully you'll have learned a little bit more about yourself.